Okay, so we've moving on to a question from João from Portugal. Good afternoon, João. Actually, I think you had two questions. So the first one is, could Andy and Sam offer their opinion on the home office and opinions on whether this is going to be the next workplace for most people, and if so, um, will companies save money reducing the areas of their facilities? So I think that's kind of more related to obviously the home working situation, and what kind of impact is that having on how we communicate with people.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've just finished writing an ebook, and the afterword of the book is a chapter on what we've learnt and what we can implement through this period, from the early stages of it. And one of the questions was, are we going to move towards more remote working? I think my sense of it at the moment is that there will be an increase in remote working. People will have discovered that this idea that had been something they'd never really considered before, they were aware of but felt too strange to them, is something that they appreciate occasionally. I don't think the majority of people and the majority of businesses will move to a wholly or even a predominantly remote setting. I mean, to a degree, we're on that journey anyway. I know more and more businesses that are hot desk, that have fewer desks than they do staff, and everyone has to work from home a certain amount of the time, and that might increase. But I still think that we will have most larger organizations will have a central base from which they work. So I think we might see an increase in occasional remote working rather than full-time remote working. So yeah, of course, that impacts on the conversations that you have. And it's something you have to explore on a case-by-case basis. But I don't expect us to come out of this period with a massive cultural shift. I think people will be itching to get back to their offices, particularly if this goes on for another couple of months. And actually, in the short term, it might even potentially set remote working back a little bit as people have had their fill for a while.
To me, it feels clearly like coin has two sides. There's a lot of people who have come to realize that some work can actually be done quite efficiently remote. On the other hand, there is equally, I talk a lot to friends and colleagues, and a bit like you said yesterday, Steve, I also think equally many has come to realize that they seriously don't want to be doing all work remotely. So to me, it's sort of two things, right? It's finding out that some things you might have done historically in your office might as well be done remotely. But I definitely think that people has come to realize that they do want to have a place to go to, and you could maybe it will drive the transformation of the office place further, in a way that I think that going into an office and going into your room in that office, closing the door 8 o'clock, doing desk work, and then going out 4 o'clock again, maybe doesn't make that much sense, right? And that's maybe where remote work works fine. But I think as a place for collaboration, working in teams, sitting in the meeting room or in a lounge area and doing work together with your colleagues, that's seriously what you miss, I think. So to me, it's sort of both sides, right? And it might have a longer term effect on the way you would set up your office spaces, actually.
I agree, yes, but I think that's the core point I was making. I think that we're starting to miss human connection, and that's what gets lost with home working. And I think that a prolonged period without that human connection, particularly with kids running around who can't go to school and everything else that goes with that, will actually turn people away from remote working. I think the first 2 weeks, if this had been a 2-week lockdown, we might be having a different conversation. If we end up with a 2 or 3 month lockdown, I think the case for remote working will be severely damaged for some companies for some time to come. And it's really about, you know, where the balance, where that line is, you know, and where it shifts. But yeah, I think that certain elements of work will be people will be more comfortable doing from home, and we'll see more flexibility demanded from employees.